how is the queer community divided globally?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think we covered that a little bit before in terms of how privilege and socioeconomic reality divides the community. Um, and certainly, um, there's been a real challenge for regionalism. There's been a real challenge for LGBT folks in the U.S. and even in different parts of the U.S. like the West Coast or the East Coast, thinking, oh well, we've achieved a certain level of liberation and rights and freedom, and so the struggle is over. So I think really embracing the queer community as a global community and realizing what we see now is what happens in Alabama affects Africa, and what happens in Africa affects, Florida, and realizing that it's not only a global ecosystem for queer rights, but it's also a global ecosystem for women's rights. It's a global ecosystem for the rights of BIPOC people and the rights of people with less resources. So I think there's been a lot of division in terms of just the non-acknowledgement of the existence of the vast queer communities across Africa and across the Middle East, and a sort of hyper focus on the advancement of LGBTQIA rights in Europe and America.
Mm. Yeah, no, it definitely seems like that the U.S. and Europe, the Western world, almost gets put on like that pedestal where it's like if they're developing, then everything is moving in the right direction. Meanwhile,
Everything's good.
yeah, everything's good. Meanwhile, in Africa, they're going through places where it's legally a crime.
Right, right.
So,
Yeah, no, and I think now we see, it's kind of like COVID, right? We think, oh well, you know, a disease in Africa is not our problem. Oppression in Africa is not our problem. But we're living in a global world, and whether it's a pandemic or whether it's oppressive treatment of a marginalized group, we are living in a global ecosystem now. And the effects are going to be felt almost immediately if we allow a pandemic to develop, or conditions like not giving people HIV medication and not making sure that people are properly immunized across the world, or we allow the oppressive treatment and the killing of women and the killing of LGBT people to occur. Like, we're all in it together, and this regionalism is just not sound thinking.
mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I really, really like the comparison you made to kind of the COVID and the pandemic and how fast that spread and thought it was regionalized and like, but how nobody saw that coming. It spread across the world, and diseases can spread quickly as we've learned, but I think ideas and that spreads even more quickly. So I really like how you touched on that and made that
Absolutely,
comparison.
in a very concrete way, with the cutting of PEPFAR and USAID funds, there are no funds for PrEP, which is an HIV preventative, and many people are not getting their ARVs that allow them to live, and many people are being forced into survival sex because they don't have food because of all these cuts. And the effects of that are that the AIDS epidemic, which has been largely contained in Africa, may not be contained, and that will quickly spread to other parts of the world. And so I think we when we get into this consciousness of we're only going to spend money on domestic programs, we have to really recognize that regionalism is a fantasy that has no connection to our lived experience and is very costly when we don't recognize that fact.
Yeah, very well said.